When we were first married, we were so broke. We had deer and beans and rice for an entire fall and winter. That year, the kids only got each a Rubik's Cube for Christmas.
It's funny to us that we're the ones sitting here talking about finances because we were up to our eyeballs in debt. Giving our testimony on giving and finances, I think, speaks volumes about God's grace.
We didn't begin tithing right away.
God had to walk us through some baby steps to get us to the point where, number one, we were being obedient, and number two, because we were being obedient, He knew He could trust us with a little bit more. Tithing in particular was huge. I was challenged by a friend to read the scripture in Malachi where God talks about bringing that 1/10 to the storehouse, and I struggled with that. It was when I really got honest with the Lord and said, man, if I'm looking at this right, then 1/10 from the first fruits is from here, and it's this amount. And I think that's really where I feel like we started to see the greatest change, and not just in, what God was giving us, but what God was doing in us and what we saw happening in our relationship.
That fear of giving from our first fruits, that was scary. That was a complete matter of learning to trust. Tithing was difficult. It was definitely a stress to decide what to do with that money.
Is He really going to meet our needs? And some of that comes from waiting to give until we've already spent everything else. We paid bills, we spent money eating out, or we did, whatever recreational type things.
That analogy is if we're so tight-fisted and we're not letting go and giving freely of that 10%, then we can't receive anything back. Our hands are, tight.
When you're giving with what's left over, it doesn't work because it's really hard to give at that point. When we made the decision to give from the first fruits, and we did it right off the top of everything, I think that's when we saw the biggest change, not just in our finances, but in our hearts and our ability to give to others.
It just taught us to really be obedient and trust.
We've still not done everything right. And I've still made some really bonehead financial decisions. But once again, God's grace, God's mercy, God's willingness to work with us has been overwhelming. And He has blessed us beyond measure.